60-second Disney movie reviews, and today we're going down the rabbit hole with Alice in Wonderland. Plans to adapt Alice in Wonderland date back to about the same time as Snow White. It was between Snow White or Alice in Wonderland. Snow White ultimately won out, but Alice was always a story that Disney wanted to tell. And for good reason. Alice in Wonderland is the perfect book for animation. Because of the weird imagery and strange oddities that Alice encounters, it really only could be faithfully adapted through animation, and Disney does a fantastic job with it. Disney takes the most iconic moments from both books, and it strings them along into a narrative that is fun from beginning to end. Catherine Beaumont carries the film as Alice, and I don't think the movie would be half as good without her. The comedy is great, the animation takes full advantage of the setting, the villain Stan in me has a big soft spot for the Queen of Hearts and the Cheshire Cat. This movie is super well remembered and super well liked, and it's for good reason. The success of this one in Cinderella basically solidified Disney's return to the animation industry, and that's great. 60-second Disney movie reviews, and let's take the second star to the right all the way to Neverland for Peter Pan. Peter Pan is actually probably the Disney movie that leaves me the most conflicted today, because there's a lot that I think is absolutely phenomenal about this movie, and a lot that's not. On the positive side, I think it's a very colorful, very likable, very fun film with interesting characters who are all fully voiced and very fun and have good chemistry with each other. Peter's a little shit, but he's supposed to be. Captain Hook and Mr. Smee are both absolutely hilarious, and the entire world of Neverland is rendered beautifully. But we also have the depictions of Native Americans in this film. And unlike other Disney movies where it's like one scene or one song, this takes up the entire second act of Peter Pan. It's racist, it's bad, it takes up way too long, and it breaks the movie. And the worst part is that it didn't even really need to be there. Also, I think they went a little bit too cartoony and a little too whimsical for this movie. I would have liked to have seen them do something more like Pinocchio, to be honest. And possibly controversial hot take, I think Return to Neverland did this whole story better. 60-second Disney movie reviews, and today we are tackling Lady and the Tramp. Even though Disney had romance plots in their movies beforehand, Lady and the Tramp was really the first time that they were telling a romantic story. The entire movie revolves around Lady and the Tramp's relationship to one another, and it really showcases the way that it builds over time. And they genuinely are one of the greatest Disney couples. It's your basic rich girl, poor boy love story, but I think there's always some value in seeing how people from two radically different worlds come together and form a romantic bond. And I think the fact that they are dogs allowed Disney to go a little bit riskier than they would have with human characters. There's subplots about Lady's virtue and Tramp's promiscuity. The angle of using dogs leads to Lady and the Tramp being one of the most stylized Disney films, where it's basically filmed from a dog's perspective and you mostly see human feet, not faces. Unfortunately, I feel like the climax of the film isn't really earned, and they kind of stumble around trying to get to it, and it just doesn't really work. But at the end of the day, it is a clever movie, and it also has one of the single most iconic kiss scenes in all of film history. 60-second Disney movie reviews, and now it's finally time for my favorite Disney film, Sleeping Beauty. Sleeping Beauty was envisioned by Walt to be the pinnacle of animation, and I'd argue that it absolutely is. Sleeping Beauty is something of a happy medium between Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs and Fantasia, striving for high art in the same way that Fantasia did, with the same compelling story with the same wonderful stakes as Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. The animation is designed to resemble medieval tapestry literally coming to life, and the music is taken from the Tchaikovsky ballet version of Sleeping Beauty. In many ways, this is a ballet, in which the story is very simple, but the artistry and the music is designed to tell the story and to really convey the emotions that are intended. Princess Aurora, as portrayed by Mary Costa, is absolutely wonderful. Prince Philip was the type of prince that I dreamed about as a kid. The three good fairies carry the film wonderfully as our main protagonists. It's one of the most female-led Disney movies, which I think is really cool. Everything about it is just operating at the tippy-top tier of Disney films. And I'm at the end and I haven't even talked about Maleficent yet, so part 2! 120-second Disney movie reviews, part 2 of Sleeping Beauty, the Maleficent edition. As discussed in the previous entry, Sleeping Beauty was designed to be the pinnacle of art and animation, and Maleficent is the pinnacle of the Disney villains. Actress Eleanor Audley brings a very powerful and commanding presence to Maleficent, and she steals every single scene she's in. Mark Davis, who is considered to be the master of the female form in animation, animated Maleficent and Aurora. Just look at this design! Isn't it just the coolest thing in the world? I think so. Maleficent is a perfect manifestation of pure evil, and so she makes the conflict super engaging. And Sleeping Beauty ultimately builds to the best climax in Disney history. The battle against the dragon is just simply unparalleled. And it builds to one of the most triumphant happy endings in all of Disney as well. This movie's a masterpiece, and every single detail is incredible. I love it every time I revisit it, and it's just pure art and magic. Number 1 right there. 60-second Disney movie reviews, and darling, it's time for 101 Dalmatians. Disney has done a lot of cute animal movies in their days, but I think 101 Dalmatians is easily the best of that ilk. What I think really sets 101 Dalmatians apart is how clever and tightly written it is. I particularly like the touch that the dogs consider the humans to be their pets, which, for any pet owners, you know that's absolutely true. The animation on this one is a lot more stylized and sketchy, and while the sketchy animation would become kind of a staple of Disney going into the 1970s, I think here it looks the best, and it is definitely the most aesthetically pleasing. One other thing that I really appreciate about this movie is that it definitely feels lived in, and like there is a world that goes on outside of just the events of the film. Every single side character in this movie has a personality and a unique style to them, which I think is wonderful. The Dalmatians themselves are adorable, but we all know the real star of the show is Cruella de Vil. One of the greatest and most iconic villains in film history, and she is phenomenal. She steals the show, and honestly, yas queen. 60-second Disney movie reviews, and today we're gonna make some magic happen with The Sword in the Stone. The Sword in the Stone has one of the most casual tones and paces in all of Disney, and I completely get why that turns a lot of people off, but I have always really enjoyed this movie. We all know the stories and legends of King Arthur, so I think one of the things that Disney did that was really smart was to focus on him as a boy. This allows them to really explore the story of how a young boy grows into a hero of legend and learns to become a great king. And I like how the audience kind of learns along with Arthur in the movie. Merlin is the best character in this movie. He is so funny and so well voiced and so well animated, one of the most expressive characters in all of Disney animation. And that's really true of this entire film. That expressiveness really gets brought to the surface with the wizard's duel against the villain Mad Madam Mim. One of the best animation sequences in Disney history. I also find it really refreshing that it has a very casual and lighthearted view of magic, because usually magic is very dark and severe in Disney. The plot is admittedly kind of flimsy, but I always find value outside of that. 60-second Disney movie reviews, and trust in me as we tackle the final animated film to have Walt Disney's personal touch, The Jungle Book. Fun fact, I actually did my undergraduate thesis on this movie and the original book, so it holds a special place in my heart. And honestly, I think this whole movie is just really fun and really well done. Disney wasn't super interested in the plot of the original Jungle Book, they were mostly interested in the colorful world and the colorful characters to go along with it. And I think that really shows in that most of the momentum of this film comes directly from the characters, their interactions, and new characters who come into play. With a story structure that would live or die by its characters, it absolutely soars with them. In particular, I have to give special props to Baloo and Bagheera, who were Disney's original two gay dads. Shere Khan and Kaa make especially good villains too. Get out of here. The music's catchy and iconic, the animation is great, the designs are great, the world is great, everything's great. This film was the end of an era, and not only is it really fun and really entertaining, but I also find it really thought-provoking in an academic sense.